All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a piece of tech that honestly powers so much of our modern internet. NoSQL databases. Let's jump right in. So, have you ever been scrolling through your social media feed or shopping online and just wondered, how do these apps handle this insane amount of data? I mean, we're talking photos, posts, likes, real-time messages, all happening at once for millions of people. Well, the answer lies in a really big shift in how we approach storing information. You This problem basically demanded a whole new way of thinking about data. And that, right there, is where NoSQL makes its grand entrance. Okay, first things first. What does NoSQL even mean? It's a common mistake to think it means no to SQL, but it actually stands for not only SQL. And it's an umbrella term for a whole bunch of databases that are non-relational. They're specifically built from the ground up to handle huge volumes of data that just doesn't fit into neat little boxes. Things like documents, social media posts, images, you name it. So if you remember one thing, remember this. The whole philosophy of NoSQL is built on two incredibly powerful ideas: flexibility and scalability. They completely toss out that old requirement of having a rigid, predefined schema. This means you can just store data as it comes, in whatever format it happens to be in. And maybe even more importantly, you can easily scale out to handle huge spikes in traffic without breaking a sweat.
Now here's where things get really interesting. NoSQL isn't just one single thing. It's much more like a toolbox, filled with different kinds of tools, each one perfectly designed for a different kind of job. So let's peek inside that toolbox and look at the four main types.
Let's quickly break down how these different types think. First up, you've got document databases, like MongoDB. Think of these as digital filing cabinets. All the information about one thing, say a user profile, gets stored together in one flexible document. Then you have key value stores, like Redis. These are like super fast, simple dictionaries. You have a key, like shopping_cart_123, and a value, which is the stuff in their cart, perfect for temporary data. Next are column family stores, like Cassandra. These are absolute beasts for analytics because they let you grab just the columns of data you need across billions of records really, really fast. And last but not least, graph databases, like Neo4j. These are all about relationships and connections, making them the go-to for social networks or those people who bought this also bought recommendation engines. Now, choosing NoSQL isn't some magic wand that solves every problem. Like anything in technology, there are trade-offs. You have to think about what you're gaining, but also what you might be giving up. So on the gain side, you're getting that incredible scalability and flexibility we talked about, which often leads to huge performance improvements. And development can often be way faster. But on the give-up side, you might lose the familiar SQL language everyone knows, and you might have limited support for something called ACID transactions. Now, ACID is just a fancy acronym for a set of super strict guarantees that your data is always consistent, which is absolutely non-negotiable for something like a bank transfer. You also need to think about maybe getting locked into one vendor system, and sometimes the support community isn't as huge. Okay, so keeping those pros and cons in mind, where are these databases actually being used out there in the real world? Well, the short answer is pretty much everywhere. NoSQL is really the engine behind most big data applications. It's the perfect solution for storing all that user-generated content, like photos and videos. It powers the real-time, snappy features in the mobile and web apps you use every single day. It's also crucial for the Internet of Things, or IoT, where you're collecting constant streams of data from millions of tiny devices. And because it's so flexible, it's an absolute dream for teams that want to develop and release new features fast, especially in the cloud. This brings us to a question that, almost everyone asks when they first start digging into this topic. Which one is it? Which one is the absolute fastest? It's a totally fair question, but the answer is a little more complicated than you might think. And I think the source material here really hits the nail on the head. There's no such thing as the fastest NoSQL database in a vacuum. A database's performance depends entirely on the situation. What kind of data are you working with? How many people are trying to access it at once? What are they trying to do with it? A database that flies for one task might crawl for another. So the most important takeaway here is this. Stop chasing the fastest label, because it's a moving target. The real goal is to find the best tool for your specific job. It's all about looking at what you need to build and picking the right database that fits that need. It's about finding the right key for the right lock, not just the fastest key. And that leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. As our digital world keeps churning out more and more of this messy, unstructured data, you have to wonder, is the whole idea of a rigid, fixed data schema slowly becoming a relic of the past? That's a huge question that developers and architects are wrestling with right now. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.